Yeah. So first of all, normally the way that kind of the transaction goes is you are in contact with someone like Vic. She refers you to someone like me, a professional, and we'll have a discussion, a very kind of casual discussion on kind of what your goals are of home buying. Once you're looking for a price range rise, payment wise, or you need of any special programs, anything like that. And we start to build out a pre-approval for you. We'll ask you for certain information, but ultimately with the goal of preparing you to be able to put a contract on a home and ultimately finance a house. We can go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So, here are the things a lender looks for when we're determining whether or not you're able to kind of qualify for a mortgage or not. We call it the 5 C's. So your capacity to pay back the loan is how much money do you have or do you make on an annual basis? And are you able to kind of sustain the mortgage payment? We look at your, the income that you receive, the type of income you receive. We're also looking at what your monthly debts are. Things such as credit cards, car loans, student loans, alimony. There's lots of different kind of debts out there. And we compare it to the housing obligation that you're going to take on. And we want to make sure that you meet certain kind of qualifying criteria. The next thing is we look at, the capital. What's the money you're going to use for your down payment, if any? We have some loan programs that offer as little as zero money down. And we have some people who want to put as much as 50, 60% down. But your traditional first-time home buyer is really looking to put, sort of 3 to 5% down. And if you're a veteran and you served our country, you're eligible for 100% financing through VA financing. The next thing we look at is the collateral, right? We're going to give you this loan. This loan is going to have to be secured against a property, right? So when you have a car loan, it's secured against the car versus when you have a credit card bill, which is a revolving debt, those are considered unsecured loans. So this mortgage will be secured by this home. And the lender wants to determine whether the value of this home is what the seller is willing to pay, wants to sell you the home for. And we send out an appraiser. They will, look at the property. They will evaluate the property based on other properties that have recently sold. And then they kind of put together, a spreadsheet with a grid, and they compare it to all these different homes, and they determine a value. And the lender typically isn't going to want to lend you more than the house is worth.
Mm-hmm.
The next, and definitely one of the most important parts of it, is your credit. The credit is your evaluation, your ability to repay the debts that you have, right? So every time you have a credit card payment due, anytime you have a car payment due, that information is recorded at the credit bureau level. The 3 credit bureaus are Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. And all your debts are typically reported there. Like I said, any kind of credit card, anything that you would typically apply for is going to show there. And then you get basically a report card, which is known as your credit score. And those credit scores can range from 500 to 850. And the higher the credit score, the lesser of a risk or the better that is. Consider that the 4.0 or the 5.0 of your, high school report card.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly is the cash to close. The money that we talked about for your down payment will also include money for closing costs and money for escrows. The down payment is pretty, self-explanatory. How much are you putting down versus how much are you borrowing? Then above and beyond that, you have closing costs. Closing costs are, things such as certain lender expenses, paying the attorney who's closing the loan, the taxes that go back and forth between the county and the state that you happen to be purchasing in. And then ultimately, you have then what are called prepaids or your escrows. These are the monies that are set aside that are going to be used for future payments of taxes and insurance. So the combination of these items, the down payment, the closing costs, and the escrows, are going to be what you're going to have to end up bringing to closing.